Hello. Hey guys, so I'm going to be going live with Primal.Kumaree. Let me just let her into the chat. So she's joining right now. So she's an animal-based diet coach who also has experience healing ulcerative colitis. Hello.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you too. I actually did a live, and let me just clarify, how do you pronounce your name? I always like butcher
Oh, it's
words.
fine. Sweater.
Sweat.
S-W-A, sweater. Yep, just like sweater.
Oh, yeah, like Sweta. Okay.
Mhm.
So I did go live with Sweta on her page, I would say about a month ago, and we got to discuss a lot of things surrounding eating like an animal-based diet and healing colitis on it. So I wanted to hear more about your story today. And Sweta is an animal-based diet coach. And do you specialize in helping people heal gut issues, or you just help to get people onto this way of eating?
Both. I specialize in, a couple of things. So a lot of things that I see people need help with, like what questions to ask their doctors. I see a lot of people that will come to me on medications or just diagnosed and they just feel completely lost. So doctors a lot of times in my experience have been, they just don't know a lot about nutrition because they're not taught a lot about nutrition. So I kind of go in with um, questions they can ask, sort of how do you do this alongside a doctor who's not really following, but then just continuing to do it anyway, and then getting the blood work anyway, and what blood work to get, what stool samples to get alongside the doctors, and what questions to ask. And then eventually you start to see some changes in the stool samples, you start to see changes in the inflammation markers and this type of stuff. Or I recommend them over to like Quality Carnivore for who does labs and stuff like that for lab work. But it's really guidance around that. And then foods, eliminating the foods slowly, coming off the sugar. A lot of people that come to me too are like sugar addicts, alcoholics, and they struggle with that kind of thing. So just giving them guidance on how to move forward with the ulcerative colitis and slowly transition from the standard American diet into more of animal based, and at some point fully carnivore, and then kind of entering back into seeing if they want to. Some people do like to have some fruits and some veggies here and there, and really guiding them in that process with my.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So you work one-on-one with clients, right? Not in like groups.
I do one-on-ones. I have been getting requests for like accountability groups, in the sense of I also see a lot of, I should say, I also see people who come to me where they have their diet is like they're doing carnivore, they're doing all of this stuff. They're like, but they're not, they're still seeing some mucus, they're still seeing XYZ, like sometimes not so much blood, but more like they're seeing some symptoms or feeling some symptoms. And so I do a lot of stress management, believe it or not. It's been a lot of my journey to have certain tools around stress management, and it's a direct, the brain and the gut are obviously connected. So I am launching some accountability groups to help people sort of bring that sort of into their lifestyle and make it a little bit more um, routine, and through this schedule to find more freedom, like that type.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay. So I'm interested, first of all, to hear what led you to this way of eating, because I believe when we did talk, you did mention that you were never fully vegan, but you did come from a background of eating like very plant-based, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, if you'd want to just talk about what led you to this way of eating, I feel like it's always an interesting story.
Yeah, first of all, there is just looking back, even back to 2017, 2000, like 16 even. There is, if you were to have told me I would be eating all meat, like my most of my days are pretty much strict carnivore. On occasion, I dabble in some things here and there, but it's like on occasion. And so I was looking to go, I was vegetarian, I would say. I never called myself a vegetarian because I was like slowly transitioning into vegetarianism. And eventually my goal was to go vegan. Because, you know, from my background where I'm from, like in Nepal, a lot of people are vegetarians, you know, veganism, it's just like there's a lot of that. And so for me, I thought that if I was going to be this whole human and all of this stuff, that I would have to, and in order to feel, you know, for being someone who was disconnected from self for so many years, all I wanted was to feel connected in a
Mm,
way with myself that I just had never felt before. And so I thought that that was the way to feeling this connectedness that you hear people talk about, because you're not harming animals, right?
right. Yeah.
So I was going down that road, and then fortunately, in my story, I had a doctor. At the time, I went to go see her, and I was telling her, okay, so I'm doing the kale and spinach smoothies. I'm putting avocado in them. I'm kind of doing like this keto stuff, and I hear that it's good for sugar addiction because that's what I was trying to, as part of my story. And so she said, and then tomatoes, like there was some issues going on, and I was having some blood in the stool, and the mucus and all of that was coming back on and off, and I couldn't fully get rid of it. And she was like, I was like, so I'm going vegetarian. I'm trying to do vegetarian. And I thought I would get support, like, yes, this is great. She was like, so what I'm seeing in my practice is that people who have ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, this type of thing, IBS, it's probably not a good idea for you to go vegetarian. And I was like, well, this is crazy. What are you talking about? She's like, I don't know what it is, but for some reason, they're just doing better with meat. So I wouldn't get rid of the meat, but maybe let's get rid of the raw kale and the spinach and see what that does for you. And
Mm,
then I was like, okay, that was just devastating news for me. I mean, I think I had to process that with like my therapist, because I really thought the way that I was brought up, and just like with media and everything that you see these days, this is the way, right? And like trying to get into this yoga community and all of these things were, um, so it was actually quite hard for me with that news. And so I did, and I did start to see some relief. And eventually, so I look back now, I was basically ketovore. So I was eating heavy meat, and I was eating not so much spinach and stuff like that anymore, but I was having some salads and stuff like that, the veggies, the cooked stuff on the side.
okay.
They cook everything down. And I was seeing relief from that. I did start to go into remission, I think, just from being into ketosis. Um, and then I just kind of continued to do that, but I wasn't fully going into remission. Like I went into remission, but then I would come out of remission, and it was just really frustrating. So that led me into more sort of trauma therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and looking at the mind. And that led me into the whole microbiome thing that came up back then. And so I started getting really interested in that whole probiotics, and I started making my own kefir from, you know, and then in 2021, actually 2020, I came across Kelly Hogan, and I
Okay.
these other people, and I just started, I don't know where, but I remember watching some guy on YouTube talking about ulcerative colitis. I was just desperate at this point.
I get that.
He was talking about ulcerative colitis. Now he ate all meat, and like I was like, this is crazy, but I think I'm gonna try it. I mean, I don't know. It's a miracle. Like
Sure.
I it's still to this day sounds kind of, I'm been in this community now for a while, so it doesn't sound as crazy, but when I'm telling someone about it, it still feels so crazy to me. But when you look at my labs, when you look at my blood work, when I look in the toilet, it's
Yeah.
I just beautiful. Like for someone who for years saw, it's devastating to have this disease, as you know. It's devastating every day to go to the bathroom and be afraid
Yeah.
because it literally feels like you're just dying from the inside out, like you're rotting from the inside out. And I
Yeah.
thought plants were going to be the answer to not rotting. And lo and behold, meat healed and sealed my gut.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, that's also awesome that your doctor was the one that kind of pointed you in that direction. I think we did talk about this a little bit when we did the live stream on your page, but my doctor did the opposite for me. He actually told me that red meat and dairy aggravate ulcerative colitis and can cause it. So I thought I was doing the best thing I could possibly do for colitis by being vegan. So that's awesome that your doctor did lead you in that direction. So did you see other things improve then as you did transition to a more like carnivore diet? And what were those things?
So, the biggest thing besides the ulcerative colitis, I have had my pretty much since as far back as I can remember, pretty bad anxiety, depression, I mean, bad. And, I've been on the medications with all that whole thing and whatnot. But I had really debilitating PTSD, like to the point, in 2017 before I started going into the low carb, high fat, which I transitioned into now where I am now. I I was in the closet. Literally, I would be in the closet in the dark, like trying to hold myself together because I thought I was dying. Like I thought whatever the trauma that had happened to me was happening again. I
Mm,
really thought it was happening again. And it was debilitating. And I felt so alone and I was isolated and I didn't want to tell anybody. So I was like hiding this. Um, and I mean, I even was able to hide it from my own husband. Like it was really bad because I was so ashamed of everything. And then the colitis was coming back and all of this stuff was so, just to paint a picture of how bad it was for me. Um, and then as I slowly started to just move off, just something as simple as moving off the sugar and the carbohydrates and then going meat heavy. So after this, I was like, well, I guess I'm going to eat meat and veggies. Like, I guess that's my life now. And I did start to see some improvement in the mental health. And I also checked myself into some facilities for, I started going into some trauma therapies. I started going into therapy for PTSD and all of this stuff. And I think just the removal of the processed foods alone gave me the ability to kind of grasp onto a little bit of hope because I was no longer like bombarded with all that processed junk going into my brain and my body and causing all the issues that I was having. But the craziest thing is when I fully transitioned into carnivore and I went like right when I went strict carnivore, I got a little bit sick at first because it was just a lot higher fat and I was eating a lot more than I had ever eaten before because I wasn't eating enough in the first place. And I just let myself go. I was like,
mm,
you just go. And I ate beef only. Beef, ground beef, ribeyes, ground beef, ribeyes, butter, ground beef, ribeyes, salt, water, like seltzer water, and
right.
crazy, like crazy. I mean, I was eating, eating, eating. Um, and it's funny, my clients, they'll say the same thing to me now is there were literally moments in my life where I'm just sitting doing whatever regular life just hit with extreme joy
Mm,
and bliss and contentment and serenity. like I'd never felt before. People say bliss, the word bliss. I didn't even know what like that. I don't even know what that is. Like, oh, is it sitting on a beach and like, I don't know. I didn't know. But to just have that overwhelming feeling of joy come out of nowhere after eating ribeyes. After I eat ribeyes, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
What is that? And then I learned about bioavailability. And I'm like, oh, I'm eating the most nutrient dense thing on the planet besides liver, right? Like beef is that it's gold.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally relate with that. I remember as a vegan trying all of those superfoods and then being shocked to realize that everything I eat now are like the real superfoods. They're super bioavailable. They have like a much higher or a much broader nutrient profile than anything I used to eat. And I can totally relate too about eating beef again, like especially when I first started eating it again, I like my whole body felt calmed, like it had not felt ever, I don't think in my life. It was so crazy, yeah. Um, okay. So was I remember seeing that post that where you talked about how you lost friends when you started eating this way. And I felt, I felt for you because I haven't fully seen that with myself, but especially with not even having the desire to drink anymore. I kind of see myself falling away from certain people because I'm not going out with them in that way anymore. And that's like totally my choice too. Like if I really wanted to, I could go do those things, but I just don't have a desire anymore. So I was, if you're comfortable talking about it, I was just interested in hearing how that went for you socially and like how, things have changed in that regard and like if you deliberately chose to cut out alcohol.
Yes. So I did deliberately choose to cut out alcohol because I am an alcoholic. So I abused alcohol. I drank alcohol alcoholically. Like once I started, I couldn't stop that whole 9 yards. So in 2007, I basically um, I hit a pretty bad bottom. Like I lost everything. I mean, I have 3 boxes, I think, to my name. And I rebuilt my life. And I got sober. And so it was kind of the beginning. I had been diagnosed with colitis the year before that. And I think that's where I just really fell apart, is because now not only did I have all this trauma and all of this PTSD and anxiety and depression and alcoholism to like soothe that, I now had this colitis. And so I just ended up, I just was a mess. And so I got sober. I deliberately stopped drinking, like, and, got sober. So I did use the recovery rooms for that, and that worked for me. So I got sober in 2017, and that's when I started talking. I was like, that's it. I need to now look at this colitis business. Like, I actually want to live now. Like, I do want to live in this world, and I was starting to feel better and like all of these things. And so that's when I started on my healing journey with colitis in 2000, and like actually diagnosed in 2006, and in 2007 actively being like, I am going to heal.
Oh, wow. Okay. So in terms of relationships too, was that when you did see a lot of those relationships change, like in like 2007? Wow.
2007, yeah. I did. I saw relationships. I mean, I just got a new whole group of new friends, to be honest with you. There are some friends that are, I would say I'm still acquaintances with, but our lifestyles are very different. And so when I choose to see them and hang out with them, it's very much around, there's boundaries around what that's going to be like. Now, I can definitely be around alcohol. I have no problem being around alcohol now. I have no desire to drink at all. I've been sober almost 16 years, so like that's not even like I've been sober longer than I've been drinking. So I'm not the person that drinks alcohol. I've just built my life now around people who accept that about me. I think it was actually harder being a that I was animal based. I was telling a friend today on the phone, like, she was like, why did you keep this a secret from me? I literally told her today. I was like, oh, I thought I told you. She was like, no, the last time you told me you were working on something, but you didn't want to tell anybody because you didn't feel comfortable. And I was like, oh, yeah. Back then, I was actually still in that sort of like coming out phase of just I'm almost 40 and I'm like owning, I came from sort of a culture where you kind of sweep things under the rug and you don't really talk about things. And I just think I'm coming to a place in my life where it's like, here I am.
Mm.
I started this account literally because I was afraid I was going to lose so many people. I just blocked everyone I knew.
Oh, wow. Oh my God.
Yeah, and I was like, I just felt like during all of the pandemic and all of this stuff, like, you know, everyone's home. And then my sister has a school. And so she was like, I'm going to open. I don't know what's happening here, but like, if I open and you guys just follow all the rules and just send your kids and we'll be cool and everybody we'll just all kind of be together. And so we did that. So I didn't have my babies at home because they now we had this opportunity to be at school. My baby, like my son, was not supposed to be leaving me yet. So now I had nothing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so my husband's working from home and like I can't go get a job. I can't do anything. And I just felt like I want something so desperately to give back to the world and I don't know what it is. And I remember actually being on the floor crying in 2021, being like, just if there's something for me, like whatever that is, like let it just happen, whatever that is. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I want to help people. Like I really want to help people. And I knew like with my alcoholism and my sugar addiction, I've helped a lot of people in my life. So I knew that I'd like to go down that road. And then one day I was like, what if I talk about colitis? And
Yeah.
then so I created this account. I blocked every single person that I knew. And then I remember going on and being like, hi, I've healed ulcerative colitis. My name is Sweta. 25 followers, 35 followers, like just using hashtags. People are like, oh, thank you for sharing that. Like, I blah, blah, blah. And like, here we are. Like, I don't know what's happening, but it's never, I know that this way of eating, this lifestyle of connecting to what I believe is um, the cycle of life, the natural cycle of life, and connecting to that and sharing that with the world is there's nothing more pleasurable and more connected and more I just never experienced this much joy in my life to be able to take what I've learned and unapologetically be like, yes, I eat beef every day.
Yeah.
I eat beef every day. Yes, I eat beef. Here are my numbers. Here are my numbers. Here's my colon. You want to talk about stool? Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Because I don't want, I felt so much shame that now I feel so empowered through taking my darkest, darkest past and literally turning it into my greatest asset.
Yeah. That's amazing. When you were talking about how you blocked everyone, it's like, it's sad. It's sad that you felt that you had to do that, but I can totally relate to that in the sense that the whole reason I started this account was because I'd stopped being vegan and like everybody in my life knew me as that person who was the healthy vegan. Mind you, they were all also ignoring the fact that I had ulcerative colitis. They all knew me as a person who'd been vegan for over a decade. And like, I think a lot of people in my life, some people were very supportive, others were just genuinely confused. And to be fair, it was because they didn't know the whole story. They saw what I would post on social media about how great veganism is. So I can't really blame them. But in the end, like when I did start to transition to this way of eating and I started to learn more and I just wanted to talk about it, that was why I created this account. So while a lot of the people, and I actually have a few people in my life that follow this account, they're like pretty supportive. I think they're a little confused also, but they're supportive. But on the other hand, most of the people in my life, like I could totally relate to you kind of using a like coming out of the closet analogy, because I feel like I have to hide this from them. Like I work with a group of almost all women and I don't ever talk about my diet with them because I know how weird they would find it. To be fair to some my closer friends know more than others and I'm pretty like honest with them about it, but I can just totally relate to that. And it's sad that that's the world we live in, where we're so removed from our like natural diet that we feel that we have to hide it when we just eat a food that's so nutrient dense but somehow like viewed as like so unhealthy for you. It's so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It is absolutely backwards. I have to say though, one thing that has happened over the course of just like creating this for me, has now I've unblocked all those people. And I remember the day that luckily have like a super supportive husband and like all of that stuff. And he just never said, he's just like, I mean, whatever's working for you, girlfriend, like whatever, not,
Yeah.
whatever. He does like limit his carbs and like he works out and he does all of this. And he's, for the most part, like he's quite healthy guy. And he doesn't like veggies, so it like kind of works out that we both love burgers. And like I'll be like, well, I'm having burgers today. He's like, all right, I guess, yeah, no bun for me. Like so it's just kind of it worked out that way, but with him at least. But so I remember the day I told him that I created this account, and I was like, I sat my kids and my husband down. I was like, okay, so I think something's happening for mom. Not sure what it is, but I think I'm helping some people and I'm feeling proud of myself. And I'd like to share this with you guys. Of course, they were like, haha, mommy, blah, blah, blah. And so then they're like, oh, my husband's like, she's serious. We should sit down. And so, I told them, of course, they're like, what are we supposed to do? I'm like, you are supposed to hip hip hooray me all the way. So of course,
Yeah.
they just parade around the house and yay, mommy, whatever. But I then started telling like my neighborhood friends, and we have the most incredible neighborhood. Like we just are so blessed with the people that are in our lives. They're just wonderful people. But I was afraid with this that I was afraid. I don't know how else to say it. I was afraid. And so part of this account has allowed me to open up in ways that I don't know that I would have ever been able to, because I feel so confident now knowing that my story, like I'm sure you get this too, like you get messages from people where you're just like, or I have a client who literally messaged me from her hospital bed, just diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, like devastating.
Yeah.
You start to think, okay, I'm not seeing the bigger picture here on what's happening on the other side of this screen is actually pretty powerful. That there are people in India and Nepal who are now saying, okay, maybe I am allowed to be who I am and I can try this and maybe this might help me. And then they do messages like, oh, by the way, like I am not having mucus anymore, or my bloating went away, and I don't even know. I don't even know that that's happening. It's how many of these people actually reach out to you to tell you that? You know what I mean? So that
Yeah.
gave me the confidence to be like, you know what? Forget everybody else. This is who you are. And I'd already been kind of working on this stuff in my life anyway, like to be more authentically myself. But now it is all out there and anybody and everybody can follow me. And if they find me, they find me. And if they don't, they don't. And, and some people, like some of my friends, like the one I was talking to today, I was like, so it's a pretty niche topic. you're welcome to check it out if you want, but like it's not like it's not like one of those things where I'm asking you to follow me. So like that's not what this is. If this is not for you, please, you don't need it coming down your feed.
Yeah.
Um,
I can totally relate to that. Yeah.
because this isn't about followers for me. This is, I mean, like you said, like, I mean, I remember when I first started following you, it's like you were impacting so many people and your light is shining on. So, I mean, you are a permission slip. I always say this to people because the moment you started this account, you said to the universe and to the world and to every single, um, you know, cell in your body that you are allowed to be who you are. That's the message you're sending, right? And so now that's rushing back to you because you're literally saying, hey, by the way, I was a vegan. It didn't work for me. Permission slip, permission slip, permission slip. Just imagine all the people on the other side of your screen that you don't see. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you.
I mean, there were so many things that contributed to me being comfortable stopping being vegan, but a part of it was totally all of the ex-vegan stories. And yeah, I mean, I can totally relate to that too, where I get I get a lot of messages that are very similar to that. And it's like I I almost can't fathom the influence that I'm having. And it's like I would say like 95 to 99% positive, and it's mind blowing.
Yeah, I would hold on to that. Like, that's what I think about now. It's like, wait a second. And even the friend of mine who I was talking to on the phone today, she's like, do you even realize that there's a girl somewhere who had debilitating eating disorders that's watching you and is deciding to call someone for help today? And I'm like, we get so wrapped up sometimes in self and like, oh, well, I'm afraid. But so what's been so freeing about this is like that other idea. So like I tell my clients too, like, what is the opposite of the thing that's going on in your brain right now? And the opposite is, typically you get the negative thought and then you have the opposite thought. And the opposite thought is going to be usually like higher self, divine self, whatever the parable of the good wolf and the bad wolf, whatever you want to think. It's the ego versus higher self, whatever. And then you're feeding that thought now, you're feeding it down a completely different nerve. So this is neuroplasticity as its finest, right? So you're choosing to think, okay, I'm going to have this other thought. And now it's infiltrating my life that I just honestly just don't give a fuck anymore. I just feel so liberated. And I think a lot of it has to do with what I'm eating.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that too. And I know that one of the biggest things that you named was improving your mental health with when you switch to eating this way. And I felt that I feel that way now in retrospect because as a vegan, I never considered myself depressed, but now I look back and I know my self-esteem was so much lower. Like especially like at my worst, I would say like 2 to 3 years into veganism when my self-esteem was like truly at its lowest. Every single day, like I like felt like I hated myself and like I hated the situation I was in. I felt powerless. And now it's like the only thing I've really changed, yes, I'm older, my circumstances have changed, but in terms of the way I'm feeling on a daily basis, it's like the one thing I've changed is my diet. So I have to attribute the improvement in the way I'm feeling back to my diet, like because nothing else has really changed for me to just effortlessly be feeling better.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the kicker for me is out of all the things I was trying to eat, these kale smoothies, right? Like that's what I thought I was going to get my spiritual awakening, whatever you connectedness to self after eating a ribeye. Like after I started eating ribeyes, like I said, I don't know what happened. Well, I do know now what happened in my brain is I'm getting enough fat. I'm getting the cholesterol I need. I'm getting all of these things going into my brain, which then allow me to access these tools that I had through multiple years of therapy had no access to because I was on the standard American diet. And I was blocked completely from any type of connection to the world around me or people or places or things. And so kind of going back to this whole idea of like coming out as a carnivore, like, of course, now I feel more connected to these people more than ever. So why wouldn't I share? Because I feel connected to self. And the more meat I eat, in fact, right now, because I'm living with my parents and my mom is teetering on, I think I pulled her out of vegetarian since I've been here. She's eating fish now. But like, so I cook all the beef in the basement. I cook all my burger patties in the basement. Like I basically made a space so that I can sort of respect her or whatever, even though they could care less if I bring burgers home and eat it. Like they don't care. But I don't know. It's that whole thing kind of going back to that. But that connectedness is allowing me to be more authentic. And it's because I'm getting the nutrient. I believe, for me, this is just my opinion, that I'm getting all of the nutrients that I needed that I wasn't getting from plants because they're not bioavailable. And I think that they were definitely tearing up my system. And now I can actually be a light in the world. Whereas before, I just feel like I was completely like zoned out. Zoned out. And then on top of that, you have the colitis. So then you're just completely self-absorbed with depression and woe is me, which is very sad. Don't get me wrong, but that's where I lived. I lived in self-loathing. And beef took me out of it. Beef.
Yeah. Like spaced out. And it was literally because of veganism. I wasn't doing drugs or I wasn't really even drinking that much. It was because I was not getting what my brain needed to function properly. So yeah, I totally relate to you with feeling more grounded also.
Say that even to someone who I don't disagree with, there must be a lot going on with me that I feel the need to get onto social media and do something so wretched.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to me that they're in any type of connected space with animals if they're treating another human being that way. And I have to say, one of my best friends, we've been friends for many years, like 12 years. She is a diehard vegan, and I am a diehard the other opposite way. And so, but I have found that the beauty of our relationship is it's not about the food. It's like just allowing her to be who she is. And I
Right.
had more of that. Like, you know what? That's your journey. And I was going down that road too, and it just didn't work for me. And if it works for you, then that's really great.
Right. That's the attitude I have too. And I know all of the vegans that come across my page would probably disagree with that, but I truly do feel like I genuinely want people to do what's best for them. And again, like I respect people's journeys. And I know back when I was vegan, I, the thing was, is like I was secure in being vegan. So I wasn't going out and looking for reasons to like challenge people about it. So I was never like going and arguing with people online. And yeah, I mean, that's really, I'm just agreeing with you with that, is that like I truly do feel like everybody should have the freedom to eat the way that they want. And if you feel like veganism is benefiting you the most, then that's your journey and you can like happily do that. I have nothing against it, but then it's like the problem that I have is when they basically kind of use veganism like a religion and try to spread it and say that you're wrong basically because you're doing something differently than they are. You're doing like the worst thing that you can possibly do in their eyes. But yeah, I mean, it's good that you haven't experienced too much hate. I hope that you don't, but they seek out accounts like ours. So
Oh, I know. I have had blocked some of them because earlier on, actually, that was kind of one of the reasons I ended up changing my name because it used to be Carnivore Hippie. And then I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for all this. I didn't know, like, I didn't feel strong enough to be like, and so I did. One of the reasons I did change my name to Primal.Kumaree, which Kumari just means princess in Nepalese. And it allows people in that sort of part of India and Nepal to sort of grasp onto seeing that name and then enter into this sort of realm and see what this is about, which is kind of working. But yeah, I was the carnivore hippie and I did block a few accounts and I was like, I don't know if I can handle all of this right now. And to be like really radically honest about it with myself too, to actually change my name, because I did notice there was a few people in this community that was kind of like, oh, and look, that's just where I was. And I actually would much rather be this than that, because I feel like this is more connected to who I am and I can reach more people. And the whole point is to have someone see that it's going to be okay.
Right.
You can be.
So you're saying basically that you didn't want to put yourself in the box of saying like I eat exclusively 100% carnivore. It's like,
No, I want to have the carnivore in my title because the vegans started coming to me.
oh, okay. Okay. I can see that too. So I know that like I'm gonna wrap this up pretty quickly now because it's been like almost an hour and I don't want to keep you. But I wanted to know where people can find you, and then I was also curious to know because I believe when we did talk, you said that every once in a while you do include some plant foods, so
Yeah.
like animal based. So I was curious to know what you do include and if you've seen anything like help or if it like always kind of like can aggravate your gut issues. I'm just curious about that.
Yes, I have messed around with a few things actually, to sort of see what would happen and how far I've actually healed my gut. I do a lot of blood testing, so I will put that there. I have incredible inflammation markers, and the colitis, as far as I know from the last colonoscopy I had, which was back in 2019, right before the pandemic, was pristine.
Mm.
So, with that being said, I do eat. I started working with Austin Cavelli, Quality Carnivore. She's brilliant and I love her. And so we've been working together. And one of the things that I started incorporating back to see what would happen is low oxalate veggies. So things like bib lettuce, things like, or butter lettuce, what do you want to call it? What do you call it? Just regular lettuce, romaine lettuce, things like that. And they're more like, I notice like I want to have these things more in the summer if I'm hot, or like, someone will go have an ice cream cone.
Mm-hmm.
I will choose to have like burger patties wrapped in romaine lettuce or just pure lettuce. So like that. No aggravation, no nothing. The only thing that I have noticed is that my stools are a little bulkier, but they're still gorgeous.
Okay. Interesting. I did try so I've kind of been like switching to just calling myself animal based because I don't like having to justify why I have coffee and
Mhm.
I
I
still
drink.
have lemon juice and lime and lo and behold like every time I post something somebody's like that's not carnivore and I think the labels at the end of the day are stupid anyway, but it's just easier to call the way that I eat that. But I did experiment with incorporating avocado again, and it just didn't
Mhm.
go well. Like it gave me a rash, but I think that's because it's high in oxalates. So that makes sense, like what you're
Yeah,
saying.
I can eat I can eat avocados now with no problem. I was not able to eat avocados in the past, and I do enjoy an avocado here and there. I definitely do. I will put seasonings. I use like you'll see in some of my pictures the little chives. When my pictures were really pretty because it's when we're at my in-laws' house, my brother-in-law cooks. He always makes everything look so pretty. So anyway, he's like a chef. So, I will have that kind of thing. I would say I go with the seasons, definitely. So this year, my mother-in-law has an incredible garden and she grows everything from compost. They have like 5 acres and she has this organic whatever. And she grows everything with her compost and no pesticides and whatever. And so this year I tested blueberries and one of the things I tested years ago, or I shouldn't say years ago, but my son was having a problem with diarrhea and all of this stuff. And so, of course, naturally, I was like, well, we're going to go get everything tested. So we got his stool samples, everything tested. And I was like, it's the strawberries. It's the glyphosate in the strawberries. I know it. I know it. I pulled him off all fruits, all veggies, everything for the week. He was going to preschool, and he just eats whatever's at the preschool. I don't mess with my kids. Like, I'm not crazy with my kids. They were at a birthday party, they're eating cake. If they want a cookie, they're having it. I'm not even messing with that. That's power to you if you can do that. But I'm a good enough example for my children on what health can look like, and that's all they need to know. So but like, I took the strawberries out, and then we gave him strawberries back. Diarrhea came back immediately.
Wow.
And so we did was we pulled everything again for a week, and then we went to my mother-in-law's. This was last year during strawberry season. I was like, okay, it's breakfast time. He has nothing in his stomach. Let's give him the biggest freaking bowl of there. He ate him like nothing, no diarrhea, no nothing, no nothing. So I wanted to test this year. I did do some blueberries, totally fine. Right off the bush. I went outside, picked them right off the bush, barefoot in the sun, the whole nine, primal lifestyle, like the whole 9 yards. I'm a hippie like that. Ate them, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. Am I going to eat blueberries over the winter? No, I don't crave blueberries over the winter. I very much now have such a groove with like what I want and what I want to eat. And in the winter, I actually crave beef liver, believe it or not. And this is the time to be eating organ meat. So I think that I have just tapped into the cycle of life. And so that's why I feel the way I feel, because I'm eating that my body thrives on. I'm going outside for some sunshine and some grounding. Do I do a lot of it? Am I out there all day? No, I don't have time for that. But do I go outside in the morning, put my feet in the grass for a little bit and drink some salt water? Hell yeah, I do. Yes, I do. Maybe 2 minutes, but not 25. So don't think that I'm living that type of life, but I do get 11 minutes at least a day. I just go pop out there and come back in. I pop up, and then I do walks. So I'll like do walks outside. I do yoga, and I feel all I ever wanted in my life was to be my best advocate, my best friend, my closest beloved. That's all I ever wanted, ever in my life. That's what I was chasing my whole entire life with drugs and alcohol and everything. And I can honestly say today that if I were to just like, if something were to happen and I were to be gone today, I can honestly say that since I have started this lifestyle and I've been caring for myself with these types of nutrients and connecting and understanding the world in a much deeper way, I can honestly say that when I go, I can be like, you know what, Sweta, that was an awesome run. I had so much fun with you. And I don't think I would have ever been able to do that if I was on the standard American diet, because I was sick. I was mentally sick.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, you know, that you had the courage to kind of like do what like most people deem as crazy, which some people say like to eat this way. It like, I've seen people say like, it's not a leap of faith. It's just your natural diet. But when you're surrounded by, all of the messages that we're given about meat and dairy, it kind of is a leap of faith. It was for me also. Okay. So I don't want to keep you any longer. I'm just checking because we have a question here. Oh, somebody said, what kind of questions do we get to ask here today? Well, I'm so sorry.
I have time.
Well, if anybody does have questions relating to ulcerative colitis or anything that we did cover on here already, feel free to ask. Luckily, like, we did cover a lot, I think, and I think I did get through all my questions. So let us know too, where can people find you?
Well, I am on Instagram, Primal.Kumaree. I do have a TikTok. People are like, why aren't you on TikTok? I don't know. I got a TikTok. It's called Primal.Kumaree. And I have a YouTube. I do make YouTube content, and that's also Primal.Kumaree. I'm in the process of revamping my website now that I started this whole online situation, which is very different for me, but super rewarding. So I will have that. I mean, Instagram, you can find me right here. This is where you'll find me pretty much every day. Yeah.
Awesome. And I saw somebody just asked, do we do honey? Do you?
So I am addicted to sugar. And so it doesn't matter if it comes from honey or if it comes from a peach. So hence, like, I'll do blueberries, maybe blackberries, but it has to be like grown somewhere. Otherwise, I'm just not going to deal with what glyphosate does to my body. Um,
Okay.
but no, so I don't do honey. That's just, I will drink the whole freaking jar.
Yeah, I understand. I know. I mean, luckily, I don't know what it was, but from an early age, I never really liked sweet things, but I love savory foods. So I never really developed a bad sugar addiction, and I think that's how I avoided cavities as a vegan, honestly. But so all of that to say, I was having honey in the beginning of when I started eating this way. I haven't completely excluded it, but most of the time I do find that I just do best eating low carb. So I kind of just, the way that I'm eating basically is working, and I haven't had honey in a while. If I do have it, I do raw honey, but it's not something I include on a daily basis. And that's not because I think it's like the worst thing that you can eat, but it's just not something that I feel the need to have. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think it's like that bad.
I didn't have sugar addiction and I was able to have like make some sort of honey thing on a holiday and enjoy it that way, then heck yeah, I would have it. But I can't. So that's out of the cards for me. If I could enjoy it every now and then, I would totally have it, but I just Oh, you mentioned teeth, by the way. I have never talked about this now that I think about it, but I was at the dentist, my last appointment at the dentist after I had gone strict carnivore. I stopped flossing, okay? I just brush. I have like electric toothbrush and supposedly it has this flossing thing that you just brush and whatever. And so like I was like, I'm not eating carbs and sugar anymore. So like whatever, let's just see what happens. And I went and they're like, wow, your teeth are amazing. You floss regularly, don't you? I'm like, actually, no, I stopped flossing a year ago, come to think of it. And she's like cleaning my teeth and like, she's like, you hardly have any plaque. Were you just here? I didn't see you in the system. Actually, no, I don't come every 6 months. This has been a year. She goes,
Wow.
wow, wonderful. And then I got up and she says, so how do you keep your teeth clean? I was like, I only eat meat. And I was like scratching my head. I was thinking, really? Like my teeth even are like fantastic. I used to have, they would like be in there like, you know, getting plaque off of every single tooth. This was like a quick little wonderful, beautiful teeth. No cavities, no nothing.
I love that. I can't wait till I go back to the dentist now to see what they say. I mean, yeah, because my teeth they not only feel more dense, I don't even know how to describe it really, but somebody said that it sounds like they remineralized. So sure, I guess that's what happened to them. They feel more dense and they never feel like they have plaque on them. Like I used to
Yeah.
get film on my teeth and
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever feel like that anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
And the breath is not as bad as it, well, I should say when I first started like ketosis, I did notice like that whole acetone thing. But now that I've been doing this for a while, like, yeah, it, like in the morning when you kind of do that, if there's no that like fuzzy,
yeah.
there's no fuzzy feeling.
Yeah, totally. I totally know what you're talking about. Same thing has happened to me. Somebody did ask where we get fiber from. And I mean, it's very rare that I eat fiber. I actually noticed at the period of time, because it took me about 5 months fully to like, for my colitis symptoms to go into remission, like fully. And that was around the time that I wasn't having any foods with fiber. So that was like, I think a big part of what healed my colitis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I do know that in the beginning, for some people, if it's very difficult to do, rather than like psyllium husk and stuff like that, more of a prebiotic fiber to help transition into if it's needed, if they feel like they need to. But I found that once I started absorbing all the food, actually, for I think that first 3 days, all of the bloat went away, all of the gas went away. And I mean, even my son was like, Mom, how come you never fart? And I'm like, and that's when I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, when was the last time I farted? I mean, this was last year. He was what, 4? 3. He was 3. And I was like, oh. I texted Austin. I was like, I guess I don't fart anymore. She's like, yeah, well, you don't have anything in there that's fermenting. So you're absorbing all your food. And then I also, there was a couple of days into it, I completely, like, I must have been absorbing everything in the beginning because I didn't even have to go to the bathroom. And then they were like really small, and then it went through a transition, and then they were just like, then when I started eating more beef and I got to the amount that I was supposed to be eating, I did get a little bit of nausea because I had to up my fat so much to get rid of like to get satiety, and just like my numbers were all off and I just needed it. So I did that. And then once I transitioned, I would say into week 2 is when I really started to see like, oh my gosh, this is like, what they talk about, it's supposed to look like your colon, like the shape of it coming. And like, that's what I see today. Even if I eat, I'm healed enough that even if I choose to have some sort of plant, it does not bother me.
Uh, that's amazing. Yeah, I'm still not sure that I'm at that point, but hopefully, like, eventually, like, I'll be able to eat some avocado and not get a rash or digestive issues.
This is 16 years though. Like, this is 16
Yeah,
year
that's
progression. And,
yeah,
I started this particular journey in 2017 when I started playing around with ketosis when I got really sick mentally.
got it. So yeah, that's why when people ask if I'm going to reincorporate some foods, I'm like, I'm just trying to stay like in remission, basically. I don't think eating a plant food is going to just send me back into a bad colitis flare. I truly think I've healed enough that that's just not, it won't happen, but I don't want to cause like any digestive issues. I'm enjoying feeling like a normal person again in
Yeah.
terms of my digestion for now. So this will be my last question, because I don't want to keep you any longer. I was curious because you mentioned you had to up the fats to see those, to see your digestion become regular. Do you also find with your labs too that eating a certain amount of fats just regulates other things? Because I've heard like with eating like a really low carb diet that it can affect your thyroid if you're not eating enough fat and just things like that. So I luckily, like, I didn't have health insurance for a while. I just got it again. So I'm starting to think about going and getting labs just to see where everything is. And obviously I don't want to eat improperly without